Good day, ladies and gentlemen, our esteemed viewers, followers, and subscribers of Ascent Radio, and welcome to another exciting edition of Let's Talk with Asset Litigation. I remain your host, Barrister David Ono Njoko, and today we are going to be having a ride, a coastal ride for that matter, where we're going to discuss law and whatsoever that is related to law, as long as it's, whether it's social, whether it's economic, whether it's entertainment, whether it is sports, as law or politics itself, as long as it has a correlation of law. Trust us, in asset litigation, we are going to bring it to you, as they say in local parlance, as it is hot. And today we have another interesting topic, which is Nigeria versus Niger Republic. Powers of the president to deploy troops outside Nigeria. I believe when you heard Nigeria versus Niger Republic, you were wondering, is it a friendly match they are playing? None at all. It has been war of words and show of force, military force for that matter, between Nigeria and the Niger Republic, all because of a coup d'etat that happened there on the 26th of July 2023. Remember, on that same day, the then democratic elected president of the Niger Republic by name Mohammed Bazoum was deposed or overthrown by a military junta led by Major General Abdulrahman Chiani. And that military junta suspended the constitution of Niger Republic, and as such, it also suspended all political activities. This has sparked some anger within the ECOWAS bloc, that is the Economic Community of West African States, where the heads of state, which comprises about 15 countries within the West African region, and its head of state has condemned the military coup, because they just a week before that very coup, they met and then they maintained that democracy has to be entrenched in West Africa. And barely 2 weeks after the announcement of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu as the chairman of the Economic Community of West Africa, then this coup d'etat happened on the 26th of July. So it sparks a whole lot of reaction from leaders under the ECOWAS bloc. And they gave an ultimatum of 7 days for the military junta to leave the presidential palace in Miami and go back to the barracks. Otherwise, they will be forced out of power, and then President Bazoum will be reinstated. Now, that threat alone of applying force on a sovereign nation, that is the Niger Republic, by other sovereign nations or by a regional bloc as ECOWAS, that has formed the basis for our discussion today. And the fact that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, the president of Nigeria, being the chairman of ECOWAS, that's stating that Nigeria is in full support of the use of force to take out the military junta and reinstate the democratically elected Mohammed Bazoum as president of Niger Republic. That has equally raised some constitutional issues within Nigeria, as the question has been, does the president himself has the powers to deploy troops of the Nigerian military outside Nigeria? Where will he have the funds to equip this military? And also, does that amount to a declaration of war against Niger Republic? And that is what we are going to be discussing today. But before that, we'll have to discuss some international law related issues that this has sparked up. Because if ECOWAS as a bloc is not saying they're threatening to invade Niger Republic, that causes or stir up some questions under international law. By the way, international law simply means the law that governs the relationship among nations, sovereign nations all over the world. I remember there are over 205 independent nations recognized all over the world. So it is international law that governs the relationship. And one of the charter or one of the principal law that governs the relationship of these over 205 independent nations is the United Nations Charter. Now, under the United Nations Charter, every sovereign state, that is every state that has gained its independence, and by the way, Niger Republic gained its independence as far back as October 1960. It was the same October Nigeria gained its independence, but shortly after Nigeria gained its independence, on the same month of October, Niger Republic gained its independence. And they are border nations. In fact, 8 states in Nigeria has or share borders with Niger Republic, and the resemblance of the name Nigeria. Just the difference of the IA later, that is not in Niger Republic. So under the United Nations Charter, it is provided that the right of independent nations to decide the mode of governance, their internal politics and internal leadership concerns is their internal affair, and no other nation or external force should interfere in the internal politics and leadership of a nation. That is what the United Nations Charter, Chapter 1, Article 1 rather, provides for. But in that same United Nations Charter, it provides that member nations' relationship should be governed by the purpose of the United Nations Charter. The purpose of the United Nations Charter are four. Number one is to maintain world peace and security. Number two is to develop friendly relationship amongst member nations. Number three is to achieve international collaboration in terms of economic, social, and cultural ties. Number four is to promote and encourage human rights enforcement amongst member nations. But we have to dwell on the first one, which is the number one, which is a promotion of world peace and security. Now, what amounts to world peace? What amounts to world peace is the tranquility amongst relationship of member nations, so as to ensure that there is no hostility, there is no act of war within or amongst member nations, which may snowball into affecting other nations. And let me break this down. It simply means that for nation A to relate with nation B, it must be cordial. It must be a friendly relationship, such a way that it's not going to amount to any form of conflict or result to any form of conflict that may not just affect nation A and nation B, but may even go further to affect nation C and nation C, nation C and nation D rather, because they are nations that are related to nation A and nation B. Let's put it into perspective. Nigeria has border relationship and trade relations with Niger. Even some people say social and religious relationship, because we have people of the Hausa ethnic nationality in the northern part of Nigeria who can be found in the southern part of Niger Republic. And also the Islamic religion is the prominent religion in Niger Republic as much as it is in the northern part of Nigeria. So we share, apart border or territorial boundaries, we share cultural and religious ties with Niger Republic. Now, if this relationship is sad in such a way that conflict arose, it's not just going to affect Nigeria and Niger Republic. It may equally affect their colonial masters. Nigeria being colonized by Britain and Niger being colonized by France. It may equally affect the relationship between Nigeria, Niger Republic and Nigeria, and as well as France and Britain, which may, at the long run, affect world peace. And as such, whenever this relationship among nations is going to affect world peace, or the internal politics of any member nation is going to affect world peace, under the United Nations Charter, it is permissible that such nation must be stopped before its internal conflicts will affect or snowball or degenerate into affecting world peace. Now, the question we ask ourselves now is the deposing or overthrowing of President Mohamed Bazoum, who is a democratically elected president in Niger Republic, does it amount to internal conflict within Niger Republic that has the capacity of snowballing to disturb world peace that will warrant the intervention of ECOWAS? As we do here in Law Ascent, we always allow you, our esteemed viewers, to be the judge. So you may look at the circumstances of what is happening today. Are the people of Niger Republic happy with the military takeover? Are there some form of resistance, internal resistance within the Niger Republic that is causing conflict, social conflict, and threatening world peace as a result of the military takeover or the coup d'etat in the Niger Republic as it is today? If the answer is yes, then that is the military takeover is not capable of causing world peace or distorting world peace, for which ECOWAS can now intervene. Now, the second is that under what circumstances or what powers does ECOWAS have to intervene? under the United Nations Charter. We have discussed that if it affects world peace. But aside that, for ECOWAS to be able to invade, or a regional body be able to invade a sovereign nation or a sovereign member nation, such regional body must get the consent of the United Nations Security Council. That is under Article 52 of the United Nations Charter. The next question you ask, ECOWAS on the 30th of July 2023, and reinstated it on 10th of August 2023, stated that we invade Niger Republic if the coup leaders fail to hand over power to the democratically deposed leader of Niger Republic, being Mohamed Bazoum. Now, that is a resolution from the regional body to invade a member nation. And under the United Nations Charter, it is provided that for a regional body to take such step, it must apply for the consent of the United Nations Security Council. Then the question is, has ECOWAS obtained such consent from the United Nations Security Council? If the answer is yes, then they are right in that resolution. But the answer is no, then ECOWAS itself is going against international laws if they decide to invade Niger Republic as it stands. Let's come back home and discuss Nigeria. The Nigerian president, being the chairman of ECOWAS, rightly stated that Nigeria is going to fully support ECOWAS in its mission to restore democratic order in Niger Republic, and is going to contribute its troops in ensuring that there is constitutional order and reinstatement of Mohamed Bazoum as the democratically elected president of Niger Republic. Does the Nigerian president, as a person, has the powers to deploy the Nigerian troops in Niger Republic? Is that the first time, or if it happens, will it be the first time a Nigerian president has deployed troops outside Nigeria? We can go back to history and look at the Liberia's crisis in 1990. Nigeria deployed troops in support of ECOMOG mission in Liberia to restore peace and order, and that's brought about the entrenchment of Charles Taylor as the head of state of Liberia. Also in 1997, Nigeria intervened in the Sierra Leone crisis and restored the then deposed military president back to power. Also in 2017, Nigeria intervened in the Gambia crisis, deposed Yahya Jammeh, who was the military president of Gambia as at then, and then reinstated Abu Babu, who was then the democratically elected president of the Gambia in 2016, after the 2016 general election at the Gambia. If the President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, decides to deploy these troops today, historically speaking, he is not the first, and as such, he will not be wrong by virtue of history to deploy the troops. But constitutionally, he will be right. Under our Constitution, Section 5, Subsection 4 of the Constitution, it provides that the President cannot declare war against any nation except with the concurrent resolution of both House of Representatives and the House of Senate. This concurrent resolution is by simple majority at a joint sitting of both houses. Again, we may ask ourselves, if the President decides to attack Niger Republic by contributing Nigerian troops to the ECOWAS joint troops to invade Niger Republic, will that amount to declaration of war on the people of Niger Republic? Again, we leave you to answer that question. But moving forward, even if the President does not declare war against Niger Republic, can the President on his own deploy the troops even without declaring war? The same Constitution in same Section 5, Subsection 4, Paragraph B, provides that except with the authorization of the Nigerian Senate, the President cannot deploy the troops of Nigeria for any combat mission outside Nigeria. That is to say, if he is not declaring war against a member nation, but wants to deploy troops for purpose of peace mission in any member or any nation, the President must first get the consent of the members of the Senate for him to do that. The question then, has the President done this? He applied for the consent, but that consent was rejected or refused or declined by the Senate. So the President going forward to engage Nigerian troops or contribute Nigerian troops to the ECOMOG military mission in Niger Republic will amount to a flagrant disobedience of